Good Shabbat Tov, everyone. Today's daf in Masechet Sanhedrin, continuing Perek Chelek, is
Into Pasquale. You see that? That's the news here.
95. Tzadi Hay, right?
Yep.
Thank you. So he said he got up to 6 lines on the bottom of Tzadi Dalet on the bet. It's the beginning, the middle of a sugya, but it's a good point as any. But basically, I'll start in the middle because we're gonna, we have to start somewhere. We've been discussing Sanhedrin. So we've been discussing many of the psukim in Yeshayahu where he talks about Sanhedrin. Of course, there's a reference to Sanhedrin in Melachim and in Divrei Hayamim. So we quote many of these different sources, put them all together as part of our Agadata continuing from yesterday. So says Rav Huna, Esther Masaot, there are 6 lines on the bottom of Tzadi Dalet Mabet. Esther Masaot Nasao Torah Shabbat Hayom. On that day that Sanhedrin came to attack Israel, or attack Yerushalayim, I guess, he right, because he was attacking the Shomron, he attacked many other places, but the day he came to attack Yerushalayim, he went on 10 journeys, I guess, 10 stations, as we would put it, 10 different journeys. And this is based on the pasuk in Yeshayahu. Shenemar, as it says, and this pasuk is a complex pasuk, but basically it says 10 different places. So I'm going to read the whole pasuk now in the Gemara. Ba'al Ayit, came to Ayit, that's a place. Avar b'Migron, passed Migron. L'michmash yafkid kelav, he put down his kelim in Michmash, that's the third place. Avru Mabra, he passed over Mabra. We're going to see later that might be 2 places, but for now we're calling it 1. Geva Malon Lanu. Geva was a malon, was like a hotel, a place where they stayed, but Geva is the place. Charda Harama. Rama was Harad, was shaking from being close to Sanhedrin. Givat Shaol Nasa, he traveled to Givat Shaol. Tzahali Kolech Bat Golim, raise your voice, the daughter of Galim. So we're assuming Galim is another place. Hikshivi Laisha, let Laish listen. Aniya Anatot, answer you Anatot. Nadida Madmina, Nadida means you travel, like Nadvinad. In Madmina, run away. Yoshvei HaGevim Heizu, and the people of Geim should hide. Od Hayom Benov La'amod, and the day is still coming, you're going to show up in Nov. Yinofef Yado Bahar Bat Zion, he will wave his hand over Bat Zion. Givat Yerushalayim, the hill of Yerushalayim. So all of these places are part of the journey of Sanhedrin. Now, what Rav Huna is adding is that they're all on the same day, right? Because obviously Sanhedrin could have had a many days. So all these places are part of the trip. We are 2 lines from the bottom of Tzadi Dalet and Mabet. Says the Gemara, where am I? No, 3 lines from the bottom. Hani Tuvahavi. What do you mean? This is too many, right? This, if you count up what I just said, there were 12 different places. Says Gemara, well, you're right. But Sahali Kolech Bat Galim, when we say raise your voice, the daughter of Galim, Navihu Dika Amarla, that in fact is not referring to a place where what's his name, Sanhedrin went. It's referring to the Navi who says to Knesset Yisrael, Tzali Kolech Bat Galim, raise your voice, the daughter of Galim. What does the daughter of waves mean? Bat Bitosh Avram Yitzchak v'Yakov. That is referring to Bnei Yisrael, who are called Bat Galim, because Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are Shasu Mitzvot Kigalei Hayam. They did mitzvot like the waves of the sea, meaning the waves of the sea are constant. They, no matter what, nothing interrupts the waves of the sea. They go and go and go, never stopping. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov did mitzvot that way. So that's referring not to a place, but to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And then we said in the bottom, last line, Tzadi Dalet Mabet, Hikshiva Laisha, listen in Laish, right? Laish, of course, is a place, but what that's referring to is Mehai Lo Tistafi. We're saying to Laish, you are not going to be saved from this place, right? You won't be saved from this person. Avo Mistafi min Nebuchadnezzar Harasha, but you're going to be saved from Nebuchadnezzar Harasha de Mitil Ka'aryeh. Nebuchadnezzar is called a lion. We'll see why in a second. So Akshiva Laisha is not listen to the place Laish, but Laish, of course, is a word for lion. So it's saying lions listen, meaning listen here, but you won't be saved from what's his name, Sanhedrin, but you will be saved from Nebuchadnezzar, who's called a lion. Shenemar Allah Aryeh Misufko, right? Yirmiyahu talks about Nebuchadnezzar as a lion's coming up from his sufko, from the bushes. Now, it says Gemara at the top. My top word now, Tzadi Hamid Aleph. My aniya anatot. What does the pasuk mean when it says aniya anatot? We're going to take this one out as well. Answer anatot. It doesn't mean a place anatot. It means atid Yirmiyo ben Chilkiyo. Remember, Yirmiyo came from anatot, as we're going to quote in a second. So the Navi was saying in Yeshayo, Yirmiyo is going to come, the anatot person, and talk about the Churban, right? So Atid Yirmiyo ben Chilkiyo mitznabe Allah, he's going to be mitznabe about the destruction from Ashur and Bavel. Me annatot. It says in the first words of Sefer Yirmiyo, Divrei Yirmiyo ben Chilkiyo min haKohanim asher ba'anatot be'eretz Binyamin, right? So Yirmiyo was in Anatot. So basically, we're saying from the 12 places listed in the pasuk, take out 3 of them. Of course, we're going to ask in a second. You just said there are 10. So if you take out 3 of 12, you're going to have 9. But we'll ask that question, Gemara. We'll ask that question in a second. Before we get to that question, the Gemara's problem is, well, how can you say that Laish refers to a lion if the word lion is Ari, right? So it says Gemara, Midami. Is it comparable to say that we're talking about Nebuchadnezzar, who's a lion, Hatam Ari, Laish? Pasuk here uses the word Laish, and Yirmiyahu calls Nebuchadnezzar an Ari, a lion. Amar Reb Yochanan, of course, but we all know, Shisha Shemot Yesh Ari. In fact, there are 6 different words that we use to describe a lion. Elohein, Ari, Kfir, Lavi, Laish, Shachal, and Shachats. Everybody doesn't go through them here, elsewhere it does, but basically these are synonyms for a lion. So it says the Gemara, okay, so now that you subtracted 3 from the list, Ihachi, Batsrulahu, you're too short, you only have 9. And Rav Huna said there were 10 trips. Says the Gemara, well, you're right, but Avru Mabera Tartinenu. In fact, Avru Mabera is referring to 2 different places. One is called Ibru and one is called Mabera. So basically, what we thought was 9 is in fact 10. Okay, so that is our explanation. Continues the Gemara, My Od Hayom Benov Lamod. What does it mean when Yeshayo says, and this is the same nevuah about what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. Sanhedrin. It says the day Od Hayom Benov Lamod. The day is going to stop in Nov. What does it mean? The day is going to stop in Nov. So says Rav Huna, Amar Rav Huna, what Yeshayo was saying was, Oto Hayom Nishtayer Ma'avono Shel Nov. The day that Sanhedrin can come and destroy Yerushalayim is waiting from the sin of Nov. Remember, one of the really tough things that happened in Bnei Yisrael was that Shaul killed the city of Novi HaKohanim, right? Because they protected David when David was running away, the whole story, which we're going to get to today. And that sin basically stood with the Jewish people for a long time. And because of that sin, Sanhedrin was able to come on that day and attack them, but only that day. And so had he attacked that day, they would have been in trouble. Of course, we'll see in a second that he didn't attack that day. So Amar Le Kaldai, this is 8 lines from the top. The Kaldai, I don't know how to translate Kaldai. I usually say like sorcerers or magicians. Astrologers, okay. It sounds like something in the middle. So the Kaldai, the people who gave advice, that's who he had advice from. They said to him, if you go today to fight Yerushalayim, you can win. Today's your lucky day. Lo, but if you don't go today, he's saying to Sanhedrin, lo yacheltele, you can't win. So he said, okay, I'll go. So Orcha, as we just saw before, he started traveling. Orcha debayah skuya basar yomi, a trip that would normally take 10 days, sagi bechad yuma. He went with his army in 1 day to get to Yerushalayim, to attack it. Kimatu Yerushalayim. Now, when he gets there, he gets outside the city of Yerushalayim with walls. Remember, Chizkiyahu is the king at this point. Shadule bistarki. They put out bistarki are mats, like reeds, basically. And they would set up what they used to do. I guess they would set up like a tall viewing panel for our. Ad Salik Viyativ Milei Shura. He stood on top of the walls of Yerushalayim, so he was basically able to see over the walls. Ad Dechazi the Kol Yerushalayim. Nebuchadnezzar, I keep saying that. Sanhedrin was able to get a view of the whole Yerushalayim. Now, when he saw the Yerushalayim Kichazia, he had an opinion, which sometimes happens to people, that Izuter Ve'inei, it was very small in his eyes. Meaning, and he said, Amar. Haladahi Kartad Yerushalayim. This is the famous city of Yerushalayim, to Allah, Argishat Kol Mishayate, that we disrupted all of our travels, Ba'ala Kavishat Kol Medinata, and we conquered all these nations, meaning we viewed this whole campaign to come Yerushalayim, and it's this tiny little city. It wasn't that impressive to him at the end of the day. Sanhedrin conquered the whole world. He's conquered much bigger places. Allah, he is continues the words of Sanhedrin, or the imagined words. Allah, he ze'ira v'chalasha mikol karchei amamaya dekavishas b'tokav yadai. It's smaller and weaker than all these villages, all these krachim, all these cities that I conquered under my hand. So he wasn't that impressed, right? And he said, Allah become umanid reshe. He got up and he was shaking his head. He was like, this is beneath me almost. Like I put all this effort in. I heard all about Yerushalayim, the center of the Jewish people. It's this tiny little village. So he said, Movil umaiti bidei. He would wave his hands, like meaning he was dismissing. Al tur Beit Mikdashaya at the hill of the Beit Hamikdash, the Har Bayit, the Beit Zion that is in Zion, Ba'azarta Yerushalayim, and the Azara in Yerushalayim. So basically, he was not very impressed. Amra, he said, he didn't say Amri. They said to him, Nishti beyada idna. So let's go attack it right now. Let's go. We're here. We arrived. This village that you're not so impressed by. Let's knock down the walls and conquer Yerushalayim. Amrlo, he said to him, I don't need to do it right now. Timihiti. Rashi's a couple different languages of what Tamhiti literally means. I'm amazed. Rashi's maybe he's like, I was bored. I don't need to do it now. Let me do it in the morning. I'll rest. Or maybe Tamhiti means the other pshat Rashi has is that it means something else. So actually, I'm tired is what Timiti means. This other pshat. Nitiyagatim. I'm very tired. So I'm exhausted. Let me do it tomorrow. You know what we'll do tomorrow? We'll see in a minute. Sanhedrin had hundreds of thousands of soldiers. He said, the machar, gulma harag mine. Tomorrow, each one of you, take each soldier to take a little gulma harag. Gulma harag was a seal that they basically had. I said it was the chotem, it's Lashon Parsi, so it's a Persian word. And basically, each one of you will go and you'll like scrape away a part of the wall. 100,000 people do this, and the whole wall is going to fall apart. It's not that big. So it's not a big deal. We don't need to knock it down. We don't need battering rams. You just take a little piece out of it many thousands of times, and the whole thing's going to fall apart. So he said, I'll do it tomorrow. Miyad, now of course, the nevuah that he had was that he was only going to be successful that day, not the nevuah he had, the nevuah that we know. But so he went to sleep. And of course, the famous story is Kodem Melachim Miyad Vayihi Balayla Ahu. That night happened. Vayatza Malach Hashem. It sounds a lot like Mitzrayim, of course, right? The Malach Hashem came out. Vayach b'machana Ashur, and he struck in the camp of Ashur. Meya ushmonim v'chamisha elef, 185,000 people. Vayashkima baboker. They woke up in the morning. What's his name? Sanhedrin woke up in the morning. V'hinei kulam pigarim meitim. They were all dead corpses. So he lost his chance, basically. Amr Rav Papa, this is what Rav Papa says, no matter what you think, bat dina, if you delay din, meaning an argument, if you delay something, batal dina, it'll be canceled. Meaning, no matter what you're thinking today, you're so confident what you think and what your fight is, give it a little time, everything will change. And that's what happened for Sanhedrin. He was totally ready to destroy it. He thought it was no big deal. I don't even need to lose any, sleep on this. And the whole thing changed.
It was good to go to sleep angry. By the morning, you'll forget it.
Sometimes, unless you're Sanhedrin and you want to conquer it, and then you might wake up in the morning and have no people. But it was pretty good for us. Continues the Gemara. Now, we're going to get back to Sanhedrin, so don't get upset that we haven't told you all the details yet. But we make a little detour here to a very, very strange pasuk in Shmuel Bet, okay? And the pasuk in Shmuel Bet, just to give a little background, that of course, all these Gemaras assume that you have a lot of background of Tanakh, which most of us don't have, but it's always good to look into it. There's a story at the end of David's life, in the end of Shmuel Bet, which is the end of David's life, when he is fighting the Plishtim, it says. He went and he fought the Plishtim, and it says that basically, I forgot the whole psukim, but whatever, we'll read it inside. Anyways, the David, I'm gonna find the pasuk. I hope no one minds. Give me 1 second. It's worth it because it's a very strange, like a lot of this, very strange story. So it says this is Perak Chav. Where did I say Chav Aleph? Right? Yeah. Shmuel Bet pasuk Perak Chav Aleph pasuk Yud Chet. So this time about the famine, and then they killed all the children of Shaul. Remember, they had to kill the children. It was a very sad story. The pasuk continues and says, "Vahi achrechein." Afterwards, David fought a war with the Plishtim, and then it says he was fighting the war. He's in the middle of the war, and Yishbi Benov shows up. Sorry, I lost the pasuk here. Oh, here we go. It says David was very tired. But Ya'af David, this is supposed to get Tetvav, sorry. But Yishbi Benov, now then comes this guy named Yishbi Benov. We don't know who that is yet, but part of the reason we're bringing this because we just talked about Nov, Irak Kohanim. We said Od Hayom, right? Benov Lamod. So we're talking about Nov. Yishbi Benov Asher Bilidei HaRafa. He was from the children of Rafa, and he weighed 300, whatever. We'll talk about this. He came and he hit David. Vayomer lahakot et David. And the next pasuk is Vayazer lo Avishai ben Tzuya. Then Avishai ben Tzuya came to help David, and he killed him, killed the Yishbi Benov, and Az nishba'u anshe David lo. So then the people of David swore to him to say, "You can't go to war anymore, right? You're too dangerous. You're too precious." So we're quoting this. We'll see why, but we're talking about the same Nov. So let's read the pasuk now inside. It says the Gemara, where the first word on a line around halfway down, Yishbi Benov asher bilidei harafa. Yishbi Benov, who was from the children of Rafa. Rafa often means giants. Rashi explains here that Rafa means Arpa, right? Harpa, and we call it Harpa instead of Arpa. So this was David's cousin, right? Arpa was his great-grandmother Ruth's sister. So Yishbi Benov was the child of the giants of Arpa. Umishkal kino, the weight of his cane, of his spear, was shalosh meot mishkan nechosha, 300 whatever, very heavy. V'hu chagur chadasha, he had a new, armor. Vayomer lahakot et David, and he was going to hit David. It says, what the heck is going on? My Yishbi Benov, who is this person? So Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, it means ish Shabbat liskei Nov. He's a person who came on the issue of Nov. And this is an incredible Gemara and very disturbing, like many of these Gemara, because we're about to say that David was being threatened to be killed because he was I'll say a protagonist in the story of Nov Irak Kohanim. Now, if you remember the story of Nov Irak Kohanim, David was the victim, right? David was running away from Shaul. He needed a place to stay. He went to Nov Irak Kohanim. He asked them to support him, to give him the sword from Goliath, to give him food. But they didn't know that David was running away from Shaul. So they didn't know that supporting David was going to be their downfall. And so now, Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu David. So God said to David at this point in his life, Ad matai yeh avon zeh tmum biyadecha. How long is this sin of the Shaul killing Nov Irak Kohanim going to be holding in your hand? Al yadcha, because of you were defending yourself, but because of what you did, nehargad Nov Irak Kohanim, the whole city was killed. Because of you, Doeg Adomi, remember who was the one who told the Lashon Hara and said that they protected David. He got destroyed too because he sinned, but he sinned because you put him in a situation that would allow him to sin. And ultimately, you're responsible, David, crazy Gemara, for killing Shaul and his 3 sons because they died because they had killed Nov Irak Kohanim. So again, because you got this whole chain reaction started, all this bad stuff happened. So how long are you going to hold that sin for? Ritzoncha, Hashem said to David, the worst choice a person can get, I can destroy your descendants. I'll wipe out your name. Or I'll kill you. Either you or your family.
He's saying King David should not have hidden himself. He should have stayed in.
So that's why I said it's very challenging. He's holding him responsible. I mean, look, remember, David went to Nov Irak Kohanim. They didn't know that he was running away from Shaul. If you recall the whole story, Shaul called him.
I guess is the sin he didn't tell them he was running away and that they were in danger, or that he should not run away at all?
Right. No, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. But by involving them in his running away from Shaul, he led to this chain reaction of them being killed, Shaul being punished for killing them, Doeg being punished for being part of it.
I understand the chain. Yeah, just trying to.
But yeah, I don't know
what the sin was exactly.
Have done. Correct. So anyway, so God gives him a choice: either you or your descendants. Either I'll wipe out your family or I'll kill you. So Amar lefanav. So he said, the first wide line, he said to God, okay, I'll take me. I want my family. Put me in the hands of my enemy, and don't destroy my children. So, okay, so that was, David was going to be punished. So what happened? Yumachad, this is the story that we have based on the Psukim. One day, David goes out and we're at the second wide line. Nafik liskar bazi. He goes out to hunt with a bazi. I think the translation I saw is a falcon, or like the birds, right? So anyways, he goes out to hunt. Rashi, it's not so clear. Anyways, that's one explanation. He goes out to hunt with these birds. So he's going out. Ata Satan, the Satan came, Vidmi like Kitavia, and looked like a deer, so he ran after it, right? So Patik Begira, he shot an arrow, Lamati, he didn't reach it. Mashre, and he chases after, like anyone who's been involved in a hunt, which is not me, knows, right? You chase after the thing, you lose track of where you are. And of course, David left the boundaries of Israel, Ada Amti Eretz Plishtim. He unfortunately looks up all of a sudden, and he's in the middle of foreign enemy territory in Eretz Plishtim. So Kidechazi Yishbi Benov, so Yishbi Benov sees him. Amari says, "Oh boy, this guy, my brother Goliath, who was another giant, I guess, was killed by David. This is the guy who killed my brother. It's my turn to take revenge." So he captured him, Kafte, he caught him up, Kafte means he tied him up, Kamte, and he bent him over, and Otve Vishadi Tuti Besadi, put him underneath the olive press. Right, the olive press was this super heavy, hundreds of pounds of pressure that they would crush the olives with. They put David in the olive press to crush David. But it's David Banisa. But a miracle happened for David, and Machale Aramitute, the earth gave way underneath him. So as they crushed him down into the earth gave way, and David just went and was protected underground. So basically, he was not crushed, but he was in a very sticky situation. Hainu Dichtiv, and that's based on the pasuk in Tehillim of Tarchiv Tza'adi Tachtai. You made my steps wide beneath me. Velo ma'adu kursulai, my feet did not slip. But the first part of the pasuk is that you basically made the ground open up underneath my feet. So anyway, so David is really stuck. He's in a torture chamber. He's being squeezed alive in the middle of Plishtim. And nobody knows about this because somehow he ran away chasing after the deer. But Hahu Yuma, but that day, it was Friday afternoon, the time to go hunting. Apanya Demali Shabbat Ahavi. It was the afternoon. Apanya means it was the evening, right about to get dark, right before Shabbat. And of course, Abishai ben Tzeruya, who was one of David's generals, right, the brother of Yoav ben Tzeruya, was Havi Kachayev Reishe. Of course, he was washing his hair because that's what most people do right before Shabbat. He was taking a shower. The Arba Garbe Demaya, in 4, Rashi is, I think, another couple of explanations of this, 4 barrels of water, or that's a measurement of water. Anyways, I don't know why we need the number here, but nonetheless, Abishai was taking a nice hot shower, and Chazinu Kitzmei Dama, all of a sudden he saw blood stains in the water, right? So he knew something was wrong. It wasn't him. So it was a message. Or Ikadam, some say that Ata Yona Itrif Kameh, he came in, like in Snow White, and he had a Yona, a dove came and started chattering in front of him. And Amar, he said, "Oh boy, Knesset Yisrael, the Yona in Tile," right? The Bnei Yisrael is referred to like a Yona. Shenever Kanfei Yona Nechfaf B'Kesef. That's a pasuk referring to Kal Yisrael. So Shema Mina, it seems from the signals, either because he saw blood in the water or because the Yona is coming, that David Malkad Yisrael B'Tzara Shari. There's a big problem going on with David HaMelech. I love this Gemara, right? So like this is the warning system. There's a disaster going on with the king David. So he ran to the castle. Where am I? Ata Lepeta. He went to his house, to David's house. David's not home. Nobody knows where he is. So Amar, now he said, wait a second. I have no way to chase after David unless I use his chariot. But we learned Snan, right? Of course, he knew the Mishnah. You can't use the king's, helicopter. But it's a shat sakana. Maybe I can use it. But shat sakana mai. So he went to the Beit Midrash. Ata sha'ol Beit Midrasha. So, Abishai runs to the Beit Midrash and says, "What? Can I use his car? Can I use his donkey?" Amrullah said, "Yeah. Shat sakana shaper davi." Okay, so then Abishai goes back to the castle. He picks up the car. Rachbe the parde, he rode on the pered, right, the donkey, the mule, I guess. Of David, right? And I don't know how it knew where to go, but anyways, Kam v'azal, he went to chase after David. I guess he smelled the scent. And Kaptzele Ara. Now he had tremendous, what we call kfitzat derech, where the land, contracts, so you can get there very fast. He got to Plishtim right away in a second. He gets up in the Eretz Plishtim. Now, Bahati the Kamaskes, he's going on his road. Chazil the Arpa, Ime the Habit Navla. He finds Arpa. Remember, the pasuk said she was Yishbi Menova's the Yilidei Harafa. But if you say Harafa, Harpa was Arpa. He sees Arpa who's spinning. Having Navla. Navla means she's spinning the threads, like think of French Revolution here, right? Ki Chazite, she saw this Jew, or she saw this member of Beit David. So Pisakte the Pilcha, she stopped, she took out her spindle, I guess which is sharp, and Shadi Elabain, she threw it at him to kill him. Sarvala Mikdala, she thought she could kill him. Amarle, now I missed him, of course. Amarle, so she said then to him, oh, Ulam, Ulaim. Ulaim means the word for Alma, for a young person. A young man, right? If she was Ruth's
Didn't we just
sister,
say this is his great aunt?
she was David's great aunt, yeah. But she might, again, if this story is her, she's hundreds of years old at this point. But anyways, she says to him,
She tried to kill her nephew.
No, this not David. This is Avishai. Oh yeah, you're right. They are correct. You are correct. There's a great nephew. So she says to him, Ulaim, young man, ideally Pelach, bring me back my spindle, because she thought, I guess, when he came closer, she would kill him. But he threw it at her. Patke Barishmoch, he threw it at her skull, and he killed her. Okay. Anyways, this is a side point. Anyways, he keeps going. He catches up to Yishbi Benov. Right? So Karchazi Yishbi Benov. Now Yishbi Benov sees this other guy riding towards him. So he's crushing David right now under his olive press, but it's not working because the ground keeps opening up. And he sees another guy, Avishai, coming and riding towards him. So Amar, so Yishbi Benov said to himself, look, now I can kill two of them. Hashtavi trained Bekatanle. Now I can kill two people. So he was very happy. Sorry. Hashte Havi train. There are two of them. Bekatlin Li. They're going to kill me, right? I can fight David, but I can't fight the two of them. So he says, I got to get rid of David. So what does he do? Patke the David li'ila. So he takes David and he throws him up to the sky. He throws him up in the air. But that's lay the rumchan. He puts his spear on the ground, so David's going to fall and land on his spear. So he figures David will for sure die, and then I'll deal with Avishai. So Amar, he said to himself, Nipa 11 Ikdal, fall on the spear and he'll die. So Amar Avishai Shem. Avishai said the name of Hashem, a name of Hashem, and of course, like the magic names of Hashem, Ukme le David ben Shemai la'ara. He suspended David up in the air, like above the 5 feet above the sword. So David was just sitting there, right? So, and where am I? He stopped him up. It says, one second. If Avishai can do that, why can't David do that? Right? Why can't David say Hashem's name somehow and stop himself in midair? Ask him, name like you. Why doesn't David say it himself? But remember, we've had this principle many times. It's not so easy to save yourself, right? You need someone else. Again, why? These are all very complicated. But you need somebody else to take you out of prison. So anyways, so David is now suspended in midair, and Abishai is standing there, and they start having a chat. So Amar Leh, so Abishai says to David, my boy Tacha, explain to me how it happened that you ended up here in this sticky situation. So Amar Leh, so David explained to Abishai very calmly, Hachi Amali Kuchabrichu, this is what Hashem said to me, that I have to be punished for the sin of Nov and for Shol dying and for Doeg. And he said to me, either you or your descendants. And I said, kill me. Amar Leh, so Abishai said to him, you made the wrong choice. Switch your prayer, meaning give God a different answer. Because Bar Brach Kira Lisbon, there's a famous saying, let your son's son sell a kira. Kira means like a wax. Right? You sell wax, which is the cheapest thing in the world. Right? You're selling it you collect wax from burnt out candles and you sell it. Let your grandson be a peddler of the poorest thing in the world. Not lo titzdar, and you don't worry. Meaning what? Don't sacrifice for your grandchildren. What's the big deal? Let them deal with it. So he said, okay. David said, okay, fine. I'll change my answer for Hashem, and I'll let Hashem kill my descendants. Gemara's going to talk in a little bit about when that happened. So Amar Leh, so he said to Abishai now, okay, I changed my mind, so Hashem's going to let me live. I need your help, right? I need a little bit of assistance getting rid of Yishbi Benov. And that's the next pasuk, which I read to you in the beginning, again in Shmuel Bet, Chaf Aleph, Vayazar lo Abishai ben Tzuria. Abishai ben Tzuria helped him. This is the whole backstory. How did he help him? He helped him by davening because Amar Avishai Shem Avishai said another name of Hashem or the same name, and David came down to earth and they ran away. Okay, so they ran away from Yishbi Benov. Havi Karadav Batra, Yishbi Benov was not done with them, and he was chasing after them. We are 5 lines from the bottom, middle of the line. And Kimata Kubi, now they get to this place called Kubi, which Rashi says is on the border of sorry, we're not at the border yet. We'll get there in a second. Sorry. They came to a place called Kubi, right? And Amri, they said, Kumbe. They said, let's stand here and fight him. Meaning we ran away. We came to a place, we're ready to fight. Whatever, I don't know why. Came out to Beit Trey, and they came to a place called Beit Trey, which literally means two, but it means something else we'll see in a second. Amri, they said, David and Abishai said, betray Gur Yavan Katlula Aryeh. With two Guryavan, right? But we killed the lion. Guryavan are immature lions, but basically we can have two cubs that basically can kill a lion, right? And they said, they said to Yishbi Benov, Zil ishtakich la'arpa ime b'kirva. Go and meet your mother Orpa in the grave, right? And when they mentioned his mother, when they mentioned his mother and he found out that she had been killed, his strength went away, and they were able to kill him. And that's why the pasuk continues that Az nishbu anshe David lo. Therefore, David's people swore to him, Lemar lo tetzei odi tanu l'milchama lo tichmenu t'nei Yisrael. We're not going to let you come out to war anymore with us. It's too dangerous. We don't want the light of Yisrael to be extinguished. David, your fighting days are over, and stay at home in your garden. Anyway, so that is the story of Evyatar, who saved David. And the reason we quoted it is because maybe Rashi says, because it's about Nov, Yishbi ben Nov was about Iske Nov, and we quoted Nov by what's his name? By Sanhedrin. So that's why we quoted it. Now, Tanur Rabbanan, we're going to get actually back to some of these stories later today. Don't worry, we're not done with Sanhedrin or Yoav, or Avishai. But says the Gemara, before we get too far off track, Tanur Rabbanan, two lines on the bottom. Shlosha kapsa lahem haaretz. There were three people who had what we call kfitzat haderech, where the ground narrowed. They got to their destination much faster than you'd expect. And they were Eliezer, Eved Avraham, right? Eliezer went to get a wife for Yitzchak. It was a very fast trip. Yaakov Avinu, we'll see in a second. And this story of Avishai ben Tzuria. Avishai ben Tzuria Hadamar, we just said the story. What was the story of Eliezer, Eved Avraham? The last line. Dichtiv, it says, Va'avo hayom el ha'ayin. Eliezer came to Haran, right, which is pretty far, and it says he came today to the Ayin, Lememra, not Dahu Yuma Nafik. They said, I came today, meaning I only traveled one day. So he went all the way from Eretz Canaan to Haran in one day, very fast. Yaakov Avinu, what's the story of Yaakov? The top line now, Daf Tzadi Hayam Bet. It says, Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheba v'yelech Harana. Of course, we know the story. Everyone is very famous. Rashi's Yaakov left Beersheba and he came to Haran. The next pasuk says he met the place. When we've already got to Haran, what do you mean he went to the place to daven? Says what happened? It must be, and Rashi quotes this all. Kimata the Haran. He traveled from Beersheba to Haran, and when he got to Haran, Amar, he said, Efshar avarti al makom shetpalu bo avotai v'lo tpalalti bo. Ani lo tpalalti bo. My forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, davened in this place, the Har Moriah, whatever, and I didn't daven there. So he went back. He said, I'm going to go back to that place, which might have been a 10-day trip or a 50-day trip for all we know. But given to her the Mahader, as soon as he thought in his mind, I'm going to go back to daven at that place, Kafsale Ara, the ground shrunk for him, miyad vayifga b'makom. That's what vayifga means. He bumped into the place because he just thought about going back and he was there. Davar Achina, there's another explanation. Rashi doesn't like this for some reason, takes out these words, but the Gra has it. Ein pigia el tefillah, that the word pigia is not because he came there quickly, but because he davened there. And the word pigia means tefillah, shenemar, as Yirmiyahu says, Atal titpala bar ha'mazah v'tisab adam rino tefillah, v'al tifgabi. Hashem says to Yirmiyahu, don't come close to me, don't daven to me. Anyways, continuing on the story of Yaakov, it says, Vayalan shem ki ba hashemesh. He went to sleep there because the sun came. What does it mean, ki ba hashemesh, right? Why doesn't it say Yavo Hashemesh? Says the Gemara, well, the story is, Batar Ditzali, as after Yaakov went back to that place in davened, he said, okay, it's time, it's the middle of the day, it's time to go back to Haran. Boi Lemahader. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, and God said, Tzadik Zebal Beit Maloni, this tzaddik comes to my house of rest, Yiftar Belo Blina. I don't want him to leave without going to sleep. Miyad Ba Shemesh. So the sun set right away. It was 2:00 in the afternoon, but the sun came down. That's what it means, Ki Ba Shemesh. The sun just went down. It says later, after when he was recovering from the wound after the encounter with the Sar of Esav, right? That whole story, the Gid Anashah, that the sun shone for him. What does it mean for him? The sun only shone for Yaakov, not for anyone else. It means the sun set for him. So we lost a couple hours of the day. So years later, it stayed up for him to make up for those hours. So basically, it was his son that was now going to be used to heal him from his wound. Now, okay, so that's a side point. Back to our first tangent of the day, which is we told this whole story of David, who had a choice from God to either be killed or have his children be killed, right? And he initially chose that he would be killed. Then he changed his mind and he chose that his children would be killed. It says, where do you find that David's children were all killed? Minalan, where do you find the Kala Zarei de David? Where do you find that David's children were killed? Says, well, that's a Beferish pasuk. If you remember Melachim Bet, right, there was a very unpleasant queen of Bnei Yisrael named Atalia, who was a daughter of Achav, king of and Izebel, king of Yisrael, married the Melech Beit David. Her husband died, her son died, and then the pasuk says, "Dichtiv v'Atalia im Achazio." I'll tell you, the mother of Achazio was the Melech Beit David. Rata kimet bina. That takom, she got up at Tavod at Kol Zera Mamlecha. She killed all of her grandchildren, all the Zera Mamlecha, or all the grandchildren, not just hers, all the children. So that's where you see that David's family was wiped out. But there was one kid left. Remember, Shtaile Yoash. Remember the whole story. The mother of Yoash found him and hid him for 6 years, and and then he ultimately became the king. Says, well, you're right, but in Novi Arkonim there was also one survivor. If you remember, Hatamnami Shtar Evyatar. Remember, there was one child, Evyatar, who ran away from Novi Arkonim. There was one son of Achimelech who ran away. Ushmo Evyatar. So basically, it was Midah Keneged Midah, that David's whole family was killed except for one little boy who ultimately had more children and led to the future. But it was the same punishment as wiping out the Novi Kohanim. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav Malay Nishtayar Aviatar Lachimelech Ben Achituv. If it hadn't been that Aviatar was saved from Novi Kohanim, then Lo Nishtayar Mizrael David Sarihu Palit. Imagine what a horrible world. David's whole family would have been wiped out. It was only because one survivor that David got one survivor. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. Now back to Sanhedrin. We are at the fourth last narrow line. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. Ba Aleim Sanhedrin Harasha. When Sanhedrin came and attacked Yerushalayim in his big trip, right? He had a lot of soldiers. We're going to read a whole list. He had 450,000 sons of kings, because he would, I'm sorry, not 400, 45,000 B'nai Melachim. They were all sons from royalty, a lot of kings in the world. Yoshvim b'kronot shel zahav, they were in golden chariots. Imahem shiglonot v'zonot, they brought all their prostitutes and then, everyone part of the entourage. And they came in the war. Uv'shmonim elef giborim levushay shiryon klipa, he had 80,000 knights who had, armor. 60,000 people holding swords running in front of him. The vanguard was 60,000. And remember, if you count these numbers up, it's interesting. That's 165,000, I think. Whatever number, 185,000, right? Yeah, 185,000, which is the number that it says they killed overnight. But anyways, Hashar Proshim, and there were others who were on cavalry, right, on the horses. V'chein bo Avraham, a similar number fought Avraham when he fought the war of 4 kings and 5. V'chein atidim lavom gogo mago. This will happen also in the future. The Matnita Tana, in the Braita, when they elaborated on the troops of Sanhedrin, we taught, where are we? The first wide line. Orech machaneo 400 parsa. The width of his camp was 400 parsa. Rochev tzavar susav 40 parsa. Just putting the horses neck to neck was 40 parsa wide. And Sach Machaneo, the whole number of people in his camp were Matayim v'Shishim Ribo Alafim Chaser Achad. 260 times 10,000, which is I think 2.6 million, minus 1. Now, said Abai, what do you mean minus 1? You mean one person, or 10,000, or 1,000? Chaser Chad Ribo, is it 10,000 less? Chaser Chad Alpha, 1,000 left. Chaser Mea, Chaser Chad. Take-o. We're not really sure. So we don't know if he had 2,500,999,999. We're not exactly sure on the number, but close to that. Now, Tana, there's a Braita that says, think about 2 million people, 2.6 million people moving. When they would go through a river, Barishona, when they went across the Jordan, the Yarden, Avru B'schi, they were swimming, right? The water was full. So they had to go with their horses and swim. Shenemar v'chalaf Yehuda shataf avar. They went to Yehuda and they overflowed. Shataf means the stream was rushing. But by the time the middle ones came, they had taken so much water out, either because the horses drank the water or it stuck to their clothes. And Sayim Avru B'koma, they were able to walk through. It was no longer so deep that you had to swim. They could stand. Shenemar ad savar yagia, got to their necks. Achronim, the last parts of the troops, there was dust on their feet. There was no water. There wasn't even water to drink. They had to get water from somewhere else. As it says elsewhere in Yeshayahu, I had to dig and drink water. Says the Gemara, so that is the tremendous number of troops that Sanhedrin brought. That's the Gemara, but the numbers don't add up. Hachdiv, the story we read before, was Vayetzei Malach Hashem Yakeh b'Machane Ashur. The Malach went and he killed 185,000. So what do you mean there were 2.6 million? It says 185,000. Amar Rabbi Avo, you're right, but these were referring to 185,000 generals, not generals, but like chiefs. Hello, Rashi Gaisotem. These were the leaders of the units. So altogether, though, there were hundreds of thousands more. Amar Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, it makes sense because if you look at the pasuk of in Yeshayahu, it says Dekanami dichtiv b'mishmanav razon. And among your shminim, which means your fat ones, you're going to be satisfied. You're going to be razon means you're going to be hungry, right? What it means is b'shminim de'itbu, that he was talking among those who were the fat, meaning the ones who are the most respected.
Razon means thin. Hungry is ra'av.
Right. So sorry, thin. So the way we initially read it is b'mishmanav, that among yours who are fat, you're going to have razon, which are contradictory. But what it means is b'shmeinim di'itbu. It means that you're ultimately going to be, we're talking only about the number, when we say 185,000, of those who are the leaders, but really, ultimately, all of them are going to be attacked. Amar Ravina, it says, Ravina, I have another verse for this, Dekanami dichtiv, because it says, again, elsewhere, this is in Divrei Yamim, Vayishlach Hashem malach, Hashem sent a messenger, and killed all of the leaders. So you see that you've essentially referred to the leaders of the people separately. And then this is a different story over there, that they went back to their Beit Elohav, to their God's houses, to their Avodah Zarah, and they lost the Yirtziuim. We're going to see in a second who they were killed by with the sword. Shema Mina. Says the Gemara now, but Mahikam. I don't get how did the people killed? Meaning, how did the Malach of Hashem kill the 185,000 people or 2.6 million people of Sanhedrin's army? What was the method of death? So Rabbi Eliezer says, this is getting back to this analogy to Mitzrayim, Biyad Hikam. It was using the hand. Again, I don't really know what any of this means, but the hand of Hashem or the hand of the Malach killed them. Shenemar, as it says, at Mitzrayim, Vayar Yisrael Tayad Hagedola, right? It says Hayad. What do you mean Hayad Hagedola? The hand, as if it's a proper noun. It means the Yad Shatitali Parah Misancherev, the hand that's going to punish Sancherev. So there is a hand that they saw at Mitzrayim, and that was going to be the hand of this punishment. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, it's the finger. Etzba hikam. It was the finger. Sounds like the Seder, right? Right? This is the etzba of Hashem. What does that mean? He etzba shatita lipara misancherev. This is the finger of God that the malach will use to punish Sancherev. Rabbi Eliezer ben Osher Glili said, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu li Gavriel. In fact, Gavriel was the one who carried out this punishment. And God said to Gavriel, Magalcha netusha, is your magal, your sickle. I don't know how you translate magal, right? The Russian thing, right? Gavriel was in charge of basically hoeing down and the whatever you call it, the grain. And he said, basically take your sword, your magal, and get it ready to attack them. So Hashem said to him, is your magal ready? He said to Hashem, I've been ready my whole life. And we quote this pasuk in Yeshayahu. Where am I? Lost it. Here we go. It says, Mipnei charvot nadidu, and on the left I have it, Mecherev nitusha. And we quote the rest of the pasuk. It's actually the whole pasuk goes like this: Mipnei cherev nitusha. In front of the sword, I ran away. Mipnei keshet drucha, mipnei kavod milchama. Anyways, it's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. So basically, Gavriel took his sickle or his scythe or whatever it's called, and he went to kill them. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai used to say that Oto HaPerek, that time of year when Sancherev came to attack Yerushalayim, Zman Bishul Perotaya. It was the time when the fruits start ripening and start becoming mature. And if you know, I don't exactly know how we know this, Rashi quotes it here, that Gavriel is the malach who's memuna on making sure the fruits ripen properly. So Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu leGavriel, Hashem said to Gavriel, Kishata yotzei levashel perot, when you go out to do your job of making sure all the apples are ripening, he's like, Lam, can you do me a favor and just take care of these people? Use your skills to just kill 185,000 or millions of people. Shenemar, and it's based on the pasuk in Yeshayahu, which says the same verse, Midei avru yikach etchem, as you're passing through, take them. Ki baboker yavar, right? Every morning you pass through, bayom balaylo hayarak zava hevin shmua. It'll be just an understanding that you bring, a terror to them. Amar Papa Hainadam Rinshes, Papa said, this is what people say, Agav or chacha livael devavach ishtama. While you are on your way, meaning while you're doing what you normally do, show up to those who you dislike in order to intimidate them or to punish them. So I'm not exactly sure what the statement is, but basically, while you're on the way doing what you normally do, just exact retribution on these people. So that is one explanation, that the way Hashem killed them through the Malach, Gavriel was through his sickle, right, his scythe. Yesh Omrim, some say that in fact it was like poison gas. This is my explanation, right? That the angel blew into their noses and whatever air or oxygen, they died. Shenemar, as it says, this is a different pasuk in Yeshayahu, but it says, blow into them and they will dry up, they will wither away. So that was referring to them. Yirmiyah bar Abba said, what happened was, kapayim sapak them, he clapped to them. And I guess, I know, the angel's clapping is very loud and very intimidating, and they all drop dead. Shenemar, as it says, and this is supposed to be in Yecheskel, but gam ani aket kapi al kapi, I'm going to bang one hand on the other, and that will take care of my anger. So you could see that the anger of Hashem or the anger of God is taken off by clapping in front of them. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha said, it's much simpler than all that. Aznayim galalahem. Hashem the Malach, through Hashem, opened their ears. Meaning, normally there's all kinds of music and things going on in the world that you're not sensitive to. And the angel just opened up their ears. V'shamu shira mipi chayot. They heard the singing of the heavenly celestial bodies, and that was just too much for a person to hear. V'metu, and they died. Just from that, shenemar me'romimutcha nafzu gayim. From your romimut, from your exaltation, from your singing, the goyim will be scattered and killed just by hearing the shira of Hashem. So that is how he killed them. Okay, so that is the end of that part of it. But ask the Gemara now, we count 10 lines from the bottom, middle of the line. Kama nishtayer bahem. How many people were left? After the angel came and wiped out the camp of Aram, how many people, Ashur, how many people were left behind? So Rav says, Asara, there were 10 people left behind, based on the pasuk which says, Shenemar Yushar Eitz Ya'aro Mispar Yiyu Benar Yichtavim. The forest will be wiped out. It'll be a small number. A child can write them down. What do you mean a child can write them down? How much can a child count? Take a 5-year-old or whatever a child is. A 2-year-old, how long can they count? Asara. They counted 10 because they got 10 fingers. So that must be a number that a child can count is 10. Shmuel said, no, it's Tisha, it's 9. Because based on a different pasuk in Yeshayahu, where it says, Shenemar, v'nish'arbo, the remaining ones, Oleilut, will be Kinokef Zayit. It'll be like when you beat an olive tree, right? You have a few little olives left. Shnayim o shlosha, 2 or 3 gargirim berosh amir, right? You'll have 2 or 3 gargirim on the top. Arba'ah chamisha b'si'ifar, 4 or 5 in the branches of a tree. You bang a tree, and you have at the end of the day you get 4 or 5 apples stay up on the tree after everything else falls down. So 4 or 5 is the numbers, and therefore there were 4 plus 5 people left, and that's how you get to 9. Rabbi Shimon Levi says, no, count the olives too. Arba'asar, count the first 2 in the beginning of the pasuk. So count 2, 3, 4, and 5. Shenemar shnayim u'shlosha and arba'ah v'chamisha. So there's 14 who are left behind. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan says, I got a whole nother explanation. There were 5 people left behind, chamisha. The 5 people who were left behind after the destruction of Ashur were Sanhedrin v'shnei banav, which we're going to see the pasuk talks about. Sanhedrin and his 2 sons. We're going to do that, I think, tomorrow. Survived. And the 4th and 5th people were Nebuchadnezzar, Rasha, and Nebuzaradan, who, 100 years later, 80 years later, we're going to come and destroy the Beit HaMikdash. How do we know? This is where we don't really know. Nebuzaradan, Gemara. We just have a tradition. There's no source for Nebuzaradan. But Nebuchadnezzar, we actually have a hint. Because it says, remember we quoted this I think yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, that when Nebuchadnezzar threw Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah into the Kibshon Eish, right? He sees them walking to the Kibshan. And remember, there was a fourth person who came, a malach, to be with them in the Kibshan Eish, right? And Nebuchadnezzar sees and he says, now we're quoting from Daniel, V'ravei dirivia damei lebar Elohim. The appearance of the fourth person looked like a man of God. Now, says Gemara, how did Nebuchadnezzar know what a man of God looks like? It must be he was in the camp when the man of God came and killed all the people. How would he know? So therefore, that's how we know it was Nebuchadnezzar was there and he saw it and he was saved. And Sanhedrin v'shnei banav. How do we know Sanhedrin and his two sons? Because the pasuk actually says explicitly in Melachim, "Vayihi hu mishtachavei beit nisroch Elohav." And Nebuchadnezzar, Sanhedrin came back and he bowed down in the house of Beit Nasruch. And Adar Lamelech, Sharetzer banav he called Becherab, and his sons Adar Melech and Sharetzer killed him. So we assume that they were all there, and that the three of them were survived in order to kill their father. What's his name? Sanhedrin, whose name I have a lot of blocking against. We are going to stop here because the next sugya goes for quite a while. So we are up to 3 lines from the bottom. No, 4 lines from the bottom. Amar Rebbe Avo, and we'll pick it up there tomorrow. Miriam's looking. I hate to say it. The morning's a little better for me.
Go for it. It's fine.
Let's take a vote though. We can. What do others say? Morning, evening. I'm sorry, Miriam. I'm doing matzah baking.
For me personally, morning is better.
Yeah, I think I'm baking matzahs at Sarah tomorrow in the afternoon.
It's all right. I only have a few months left, so it's
I'm sorry, Miriam.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Tomorrow morning, 7:45 a.m. We're going to learn the next crazy part of the story.
I have a question and a comment. How many people did you say walked through the Jordan River with Sanhedrin?
We don't know. So we had different counts, but one count was 2.6 million.
How many Hebrews went across the Jordan River?
You mean when the Jews crossed in the desert? I mean, it said it's around 600,000 men. There were probably more if you count everyone else. But remember, the water split for the Jews.
That's why did the river split? It seemed like if they just walked through, the water would have dried up.
All right. That's why I said I don't think Rashi. I don't remember Rashi saying it. Part of me felt like maybe it was the horses that drank the water that caused it to dry up, but I'm not sure.
And the comment, I'd like to dedicate the learning and the zechut of the hostage named Eviatar David.
Oh, wow.
Both those names came up in our learning.
Thank you. That's very special. Thank you.
And Orpah ended up being enemies with David, even though he was
there's a very long. We've had other Gemaras. There's a very long Talmudic tradition that Orpah or Harpah, as she called, became a arch enemy of David, and somehow now remember Orpah. This is where it gets a little confusing. Was from Moab, right? Which is nowhere near Plishtim, just to be clear. But eventually she moved to Plishtim, and that the Plishtim and Goliath was a grandson of Orpah or son of Orpah. Our Gemara made it sound like, and ultimately fought David. And fought the Jewish people through that bad interaction. Let's put it that way.
We always have trouble with our cousins.
We always have trouble with our family. Yes. Tomorrow morning, 7:45 a.m. God willing, we'll pick it up there, and I hope all of you can join, except for Miriam.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
We also hope Miriam can join.
We also
Miriam has a halacha class tomorrow morning, so Miriam will not join.
Shavua Tov.
Thank you, though.
Shavua Tov, thank you.